We have some big news right now. The Department of Agriculture just ended a 35-year-old policy that was designed to help black farmers.
So there's basically two problems that black farmers face with getting more of us onto the land and dealing with the equity problem that these programs that have just been defunded are designed to address. One is that currently black farmers are only 2 to 4% of the farming population. The second problem is getting more farmers, getting a bigger share of black farmers is going to mean you've got to get more new farmers in, more first generation farmers in. What the Trump administration has done by getting rid of the whole socially disadvantaged designation is to really affect that first problem. The operating loans and the equipment loans and the stuff that existing farmers really rely on in order to be able to conduct their operations, because traditional banks generally aren't going to fund something as risky as farming. There are financial programs with the USDA that are supposed to target first generation farmers and people that aren't necessarily on the land yet, but they don't really solve the problem. Like, if they solve the problem, then you wouldn't have issues with white farmers wondering who's going to take over the farm. Like, there's a first generation farmer problem with white people too. So these beginning programs, whether they target socially disadvantaged people or not, they're not solving the first generation farmer problem because they're not designed to. I've been outspoken about this for a very long time, often to my detriment. I got in a lot of trouble with the whole black food justice community when I came out strongly opposed to the Justice for Black Farmers Act, because all it did was toss more would-be farmers into this meat grinder of USDA programs and this whole system of farms that sits under this layer of agribusiness that just presses them and presses them and presses them. All it did was throw black bodies into that meat grinder. And I got in a lot of trouble when I said this is a stupid idea that mostly enriches nonprofits and really nobody else. So anyway, to deal with this issue, I talked about the layers. You've got agriculture here, you've got agribusiness here, and this usually presses down on the farmers. What we need, if we're ever going to address the equity problem, the representation problem with black farmers and other farmers of color, disadvantaged farmers being able to get into agriculture, we have to start controlling the agribusiness layer. And there's almost no money coming from the government for the agribusiness layer. The agribusiness layer is everything that happens after the farm. So it's all the processing, the packing, the food safety stuff, the marketing, the distribution, the retail sales, the wholesale sale, all of that stuff. And as long as government equity programs are all about land access or operating loans or buying farm equipment and not about developing processing infrastructure or trucking or shipping or anything like that, then it was never going to solve the problem. So there's two things that have to happen at once. First, we need to elect people into office who are going to put back socially disadvantaged designations, because contrary to what the Trump administration says, what needs to be done to address inequalities has not been done. White people, especially white men, have had a 360-year head start in this race, and we've had 35 years of a minor speed boost to try to catch up. So, haven't done enough. If you wanted to catch up in 35 years to the inequality between white farmers and black farmers, you would have to give black farmers access to the same free land programs that white folks got back in the 1860s, in the early 20th century. But we're not getting that. The socially disadvantaged stuff, all that does is make sure that we're not completely excluded from competing for the same programs that white folks have always had access to. There's never been a free ride for us like white folks got. That is the foundation of all the farmland and farm wealth that they have now. So again, really important to elect people that are going to put that designation back, so at least we're not falling further behind. But the second and more important thing to do is to understand that those programs that exist now are not going to get more people like me, first generation farmers, onto the land. They're just not designed to. There's two things we have to do that are different. Number one, if we want the government involved, which maybe we do, maybe we don't, now that we see how capricious it can all be, we would need something like an SBA designation that is specific for agriculture and agribusiness, so that we can use 7A loans to build agribusinesses more easily. Or that kind of funding could come through the USDA itself and just skip the SBA. So it's targeted for agribusiness. So for people setting up meat processors or vegetable processing outfits, or attaching things like trucking and fulfillment and retail to integrated agribusinesses. But here's the thing. If you're building an integrated business like that, where you have the farming in addition to the agribusiness, you are going to be a lot more attractive to conventional capital, even mission capital that's not going to demand these extractive returns that you often see demanded from like venture capital out of tech. So here's the shameless plug. The book that I wrote, the ebook that I wrote, is all about how to build a business, an integrated agribusiness that includes both the farming and the agribusiness part, so that you can attract traditional capital, so you don't have to worry about the caprice and arbitrariness of the government and the political winds that are just like doing this. So if you seriously want to see what could be done right now about agriculture, whether you yourself want to farm or not, if you just want to be informed about what the landscape is like and what food systems of the future need to look like in order to be more equitable, not only towards like black folks and native folks, but towards the environment, towards consumers who are getting built more and more and more, no matter what friggin' color you are, read my book. It's got a lot of stuff in it you're going to want to know. Follow me for more niche farm rants.